Hi, in this video, I just want to go through some of the fear gates in the spleen and talk about how you can move out of being hijacked by the energies of those gates and what to do if they're activated in your chart and how to move into a space of power and sovereignty. So I have three of those gates activated in my spleen. I've got the gate 28, which is um, all about purpose and struggle in traditional human design. In quantum human design, it's the gate of adventure, and it's about exploration and using opportunity challenges as opportunities. That's the way that I perceive it. Then we have, for me, I have the gate 57, which is about the fear of tomorrow, and I have gate 50. So it's really interesting because this question was posed to me, and the question was, how do you deal with all of those fear gates in your chart? And it's about awareness. In the past, prior to my awakening, prior to my deconditioning journey, the patterns would have me hold me up a lot. As in that 28, I can see how that was an influence on really reckless, nihilistic behavior. Risk taking was out of this world, and huge amounts of self destructive behavior patterns that came through identifying with the theme of that gate. But as I awakened and as actually, it's not true that it went away completely. There have been times where I have found over drinking. So I would, even though I value health and I value presence and conscious awake and awareness because it's how I can function in optimal conditions. It's how I know what to do on a moment by moment basis. In the grip of the 28, red wine, and not in a good way, So it's not that I'm immune, but the key is the awareness of what's going on and then making a choice, and being at choice. Am I going to choose this pattern or am I going to choose something else? The key with the 57 is that it can be it is about the fear of tomorrow. So my journey, as you know, has been a path of awakening and a path of moving from a very predictable linear lifestyle to opening up to the field of possibility, opening up to the creative quantum realm, and with that, following a pathway that has no certainty and getting very, very comfortable with uncertainty. And I remember when I was in a house in Costa Rica and I'd already given away all my possessions and my house a few weeks prior. And I got this impulse to fly to a different house, to go to a different part of Costa Rica, Limon, into Puerto Viejo. And I found this house, and I thought I'd only be there for 2 days and that I'd go back to Nazara where I had rent, every had a house, blah, blah, blah. And I got to this house and I walked in and immediately I knew I wasn't going anywhere and this is where I needed to be. It had these beautiful big doors, and my guide had said to me, "You need these big doors for this feng shui." And it was just, I saw the doors and I was like, "This is the house." But when I got in, there was a heart-shaped jacuzzi next to my bedroom, and again, that was another symbol because I'd been following all of these hearts along the journey, and it was a symbol that was the place that I needed to be. I've even got the tremor of truth right now. And so I knew, but I had no money. So I had only paid for 2 nights. And so I said, well, what am I going to do? And my inner being said, don't worry, ring the lady, book it for the next 3 weeks, and the money will come. And I'm using this story to illustrate something about the Gate 57 because it was there that I first developed an awareness of how to work with that energy in that gate, because obviously no certainty, no evidence, but I had to learn to trust deeply that my inner guidance was sovereign to the not self identification and attachment of the mind to that open center, to that gate activation. And so one night I was lying in bed. I can feel my soul just like, as in good, like telling the story is important for other people to learn. And I was really overwhelmed with anxiety about the future, which is what the theme is. Now, observe this. The power with our open centers and moving into wisdom portals and being able, and this is an example of being able to guide somebody else with the wisdom that you've gleaned about the experience you have of that center and how the themes play out. That's what gives you a very powerful outer authority as a projector in particular, but as anyone with open centers. So I was lying there and I could feel the anxiety rise about, is this money coming? But I was like, okay, and I split the consciousness and I said, okay, I'm observing now the mind is latching on to that fear that's being activated there, but let me come into witness and develop my neutral observer, because at that point I had been doing a lot of work to develop presence and what I now teach as the neutral observer. So working with the mind, the ego, to make the mind a servant to the soul. And when I was able to get the neutral observer to observe the mind's reaction and then come into presence and see one part of the self being really, really anxious, but the other side being able to go, okay, I can see this. Thank you, beautiful mind. Thank you so much. And then you can, my higher guidance was coming in, the knowing, the wise one, the one that knows all is well and knows and sees what you can't see. And I just had to come through breath, into presence, into the knowing. I call it glowing in the knowing. And that's what happens that's really what the nervous system work is all about. And that's what embodiment work is all about. So that's my experience of the 57. Then finally, I've got the gate 50. And gate 50 is fear of responsibility. And I noticed this come up in so many ways. There's been times when I've been over responsible in my career in teaching, taking on a lot of responsibility, having this, the world on my back. And equally, I have seen the way that fear of responsibility plays out in my business, not taking on more than I can, or perceiving, holding myself back in certain things because I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want responsibility for that. And that is where, again, you want to say, okay, what's going on? And you want to have that awareness. So the key is introspection. I'm a one line. I'm very introspective. The foundation of all of my work, whether it's human design or human design for business or for your personal alignment, it's really about teaching the foundations of developing awareness so that you can become embodied. So you can actually begin to decondition and work with the mind in a powerful way so that you can be sovereign, so that you can have liberation from bondage, emotional bondage, fears, stories, the narratives, and have the power to write new stories, to start really guiding your life, consciously creating your reality, having a power over your emotional frequency, consciously working with all levels and layers of your consciousness in order to co-create your own reality in the way that you desire, while never trying to release and never rejecting, but having awareness. And it's the awareness and the recognition that shifts everything about the way that you work with these open centers. So what happens is, over time, you actually stop identifying and attaching meaning to the feelings that are coming up, and you have, through the awareness, the ability to come into presence and observe what's going on. And that puts you in a really powerful position.